Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you, and welcome back to Join the Mahdi. And as always, I'm Ardijan and Mahdi.
And I'm Alexandra Al-Mahdi.
So today we're going to be talking about a very, very important topic, a topic which has taken the world by storm really for the past 19 plus years. And it is pertaining to a book and a film that was directed called The Secret. However, we're not going to be really diving in depth on that book, but in actuality, we're going to be delving in an episode that Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, had starred in, which is called The Real Secret. So there's a lot to delve into here, and I think it's worth noting that the secret that was written by the author Rhonda Byrne is, Rhonda Byrne, she wanted to bring out something that she believed, I suppose, was the true law of attraction, because that's what the whole book and film was based off of. But in reality, it really didn't hold any water and actually didn't really help anybody.
Yeah, I mean, this book was like a really big phenomenon, like when it came out, and it has been like basically, I guess, you know, people talk about it. I remember hearing about it a lot, you know, in my life before, and yeah, it's basically talking about the law of attraction. You know, it's promoting it as like the solution to all problems in life, you know, and it's really like you know, a lot of what you hear about the law of attraction, you know, from the book The Secret, and also from like this kind of like new agey kind of spirituality online. You know, it's all about like, you know, being in a certain way and like vibrating at a certain level to like manifest like your fortune and get riches and like all of this. And so like the book The Secret was kind of purporting itself to be like, okay, this is like the secret that the rich people have, but the author was like, you know, I'm bringing it to the masses, you know, and this is like the secret that, you know, all the rich people had. This is how they became wealthy, you know, and it's like the secret which is hidden in Gnostic texts and ancient scriptures and things like this, you know, but the rich kind of kept it to themselves. So the premise of the book is like it's being revealed to the public, you know, and so yeah, it was a very, very popular, you know, millions and millions of copies of the book were sold,
and DVDs.
And DVDs, yeah, and so yeah, many people brought into this idea basically that we can create this like a better reality for ourselves simply by meditating or thinking or like envisioning, you know, or drawing on a vision board what it is that we're hoping to accomplish, and then we'll sort of magnetically attract that that destiny that we want so much.
Yeah, it was a book that I guess a lot of people really hoped would actually change their lives. She claimed that this law of attraction that, you know, was, as you basically said, you know, if you think about it and if you're vibrating at a frequency in which you believe something is going to happen, then it's going to happen. So let's say, for example, that you wanted a sports car. You know, that sports car somehow in any way, shape or form is going to manifest. If you're thinking about money and your whole mind frame is about money, then money is going to manifest. And many of these things. It's called the law of attraction. If you think positively about it, you will receive it. She claimed that Abraham Lincoln held on to this practice, and Winston Churchill, amongst many others, held on to this practice. And, you know, her and her team did a great job at writing this book and selling these DVDs and grossed in about $300 million. However, the fact of the matter is that the book and the DVDs did nothing for the people. And you know what's crazy is that many people who were rich, many influencers claimed falsely that this was actually their secret, and people like Oprah Winfrey and many other influencers back in the day, they were actually pushing on that agenda and trying to make people buy these books and buy these DVDs. And what ended up actually happening was the rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer, actually. So it actually had the opposite effect. Instead of the poor and impoverished improving in their lives, the only people that were improving, and I guess that's because of the sales of the books and the sales of the DVDs, were actually the rich. And I think anybody can say without a shadow of a doubt, since 2006 up until now, the world has just been in utter chaos and is believing and holding on to these spiritual movements and spiritual ideas that actually produce nothing for the people.
Yeah, so I think it's clear to say, you know, that it hasn't had really any effect at all. You know, it's an attractive idea, and beside it from his piece, it says, you know, it's drawing on certain scientific principles that may be true, but the implementation of this, like, kind of theoretical knowledge, it did not result in any evidence. It didn't result in any success, basically. So yeah, the idea in the book, it's based on a theory, but it's lacking something, you know. And like you said, the world is in decline. You know, the world has got worse, not better, as the author kind of said that this secret like revelation is going to make the world better, you know, when it's revealed to the world. But actually what we saw is the opposite. You know, the world has got worse in that time, you know. It's been on a steady decline. You know, like you said, the inequality is getting worse. The world is darker. There's more wars, there's more deaths, there's more chaos, there's more disease. So we can only like attribute this to one of two things, right? Which is either that we had like millions of people who were using the secret, who had these like, who were basically maniacs, who were like envisioning a horrible future for the world, and they manifested that.
That's true.
Or the secret just doesn't work, which I think is the latter, you know.
Yeah, for sure, it has to be.
And so in this episode, you know, although the idea of the secret is so incredibly appealing, you know, and Abba Sadiq, from whom is peace, in this episode he reveals the true secret, you know, the true secret, and what he's found from the prophets and the vicegerents and the messengers and the imams, you know, the true secret to success and richness and fulfillment and happiness. You know, it is something that is possible, actually. The idea which is envisioned in the book, The Secret, it can be achieved, just not the way in the book is, you know, just not the method that the book is giving us, right? It's a different way, which is, you know, it has always been in existence, you know. So yeah, this is a fascinating episode. It's like one of my favorite episodes that's come out in a while, because it was just amazing. You know, it's a real tool. This is a real secret, basically. What Abba Sadiq, from whose peace, reveals in this episode is something that can help us individually and help mankind on a wider scale, you know, if we actually implement it. So yeah, let's get into the explanation, you know. So Abba Sadiq, from whom his peace, he says, you know, he spent a very long time on his spiritual journey. He's talking about the time, you know, before he knew that he was one of the Mahdis, and he was just like poring over the narrations from the Ahlul Bayt, the family of Muhammad, peace be upon them, basically looking for every hadith that he could find about them. And yeah, he mentions one which is saying that, you know, if a day goes by that you didn't learn something, you didn't acquire any new knowledge, then you should consider that to be a wasted day. Yeah. There was no meaning in life during that day. So, you know, every day that we're alive, we should pursue knowledge. This is like the pursuit. This can, you know, improve the state of the world, and it can improve ourselves, you know. So yeah, Abba Sadiq, from whose peace, he said, you know, from that point he went on trying to learn something new every day. Yeah, and we know that even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, he told us to look for knowledge and pursue knowledge, even if we have to go to China. You know, exactly, and that would have been extremely difficult in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, considering the you know, the difficulties in traveling at that time, you know, and the distance between where he was and China. So basically, we're supposed to overcome all difficulties when we look for knowledge. We're supposed to, you know, prioritize it and, you know, go forward, even if it's a difficult quest. So yeah, Abba Sadiq, from whom is peace, this is what he did, you know, and he said that he found that the words of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, they echoed the words of the previous prophets and messengers. They had this common theme, basically, and, you know, that is that there is a secret to obtaining success, you know, a secret to obtaining whatever it is that you wish to obtain. So yeah, this is the secret. It applies if you're pursuing richness, if you're pursuing mercy, if you're pursuing love. And yeah, the secret is very simple. Okay, it's a very simple idea that you should be however it is that you want God to be with you. You know, be and you shall be, judge and you shall be judged, you know. So this is a very simple idea, you know, and it's been buried, it's been hidden, you know, within the texts and the religious scriptures that have, you know, been preserved throughout time. So, you know, the idea of the secret is that you basically become like a mirror first of whatever it is that you want to be reflected onto you.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful teaching that Abba Sadiq mentioned, and when he mentioned it to me, when he mentioned it to us, actually the first time, I was amazed, because that's actually what we see from Abba Sadiq, is that he embodied the traits of God and how he wants God to be with him. So we'll find many of times how Abba Sadiq is extremely merciful, extremely forgiving, extremely kind, extremely loving. And there's just so much to say about his attributes and characteristics. And he said something interesting. He said that he made a vow with God that he will not say no to anybody, and that if anybody were to ask him for help, that he would help them according to how much he's able to actually give, or according to his ability, in order to do so.
Yeah.
So, for example, like if there was a person out in the street who needed a blanket, he would provide for them a blanket. If there was a person who needed money, he would take out the money from his pocket and give it to that person.
Yeah.
He would not refuse anybody. And what's amazing is he said that too, is that he noticed that because he made this vow with God, and because he actually fulfilled the needs of other people, God in turn ended up fulfilling his needs.
Yeah.
So he really put into practice the secret that he discovered, that if you do unto others what you want, then God is going to do unto you how you do unto others, which blew my mind. Because what does that mean? That means that, wow, actually all of our suffering and all that which we want can happen according to our own selves. And subhanAllah, actually, he even quotes the Quran on that, where he basically mentions, indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. So if we apply this secret now, if we apply this true secret, we will see our lives changing for the better. Instead of being greedy and being stingy with people, is God going to be stingy with us if we're stingy? No, God will be generous. And that's actually the one thing that is amazing. It's one of the names of God too, the generous. And I have not found anybody more generous than Abu Sadiq. And then after that, I have not found anybody being more blessed and getting whatever he wants than Abu Sadiq, because of the generosity that he has put forward to the people and continues to do so.
Yeah, exactly. So Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, he basically said that, he made a promise to God that, if anyone crosses his path who needs help, he's going to help them, however much like money a person asked for, he would give it to them. And so he reached this state, where he had become so generous with other people, that whatever he wanted, it would just appear, without him even having to ask for it or think that he wanted it, So he reached this state, and he describes later on in the episode with Tiffany, that this is why, people were initially drawn to him. Part of the reason why people were initially drawn to him, because they saw the success that he was having, they saw this like level of abundance that he was having in the way that he was actually fulfilling the needs of all people, which caused the people who are following him to emulate his behavior, and they saw the same success, So it's very formulaic. You can implement it in your life. And he says, at the end of the episode, actually, just go and try it, and then report back in the comments. So this is really, a huge gift that Abu Sadiq, from him his peace, is giving the people. If people want something specific, if they want to have the mercy of God, if they want to even have riches, there's a way to do that. And it's, to become whatever it is that we're wanting. And he said, we're never obliged to do something if we're not able to do, if we don't have the resources or ability to do so, because God, he doesn't burden a soul with more than it can handle, with more than it can bear. So Abu Sadiq said that as long as he had the resources and the ability to do so, he would see it as an obligation upon himself to do so, and he said that he saw it as the person who's asking, he would see them as like a vessel whereby God is testing him or giving him the opportunity to do something. And actually he said that there are narrations from the Ahlul Bayt, from them as peace, which confirm this idea. There's one narration which says, that we should never be upset when someone asks us for something, because actually this is a blessing in disguise. And if we don't fulfill the request of that person, if we shun them, if we refuse their request and reject them, then that blessing is going to move to someone else.
Yeah, they'll have another opportunity, basically.
Exactly. And another really interesting point that he made in this episode, he said that he noticed this other theme that was woven into the traditions and into the biblical texts and stories of the prophets and messengers, which is God testing the prophets and messengers. And he would test them by basically making them have a taste of their own medicine, or, make them pass judgment upon their own selves.
Like in the case of Bathsheba and David.
Exactly.
So that story that Tiffany brought up, and it's something that, that's, I think, the first thing that pops up in the minds of the Ansars, that, the one prophet we can see that taking place with is a prophet just like David.
Yeah, the story is obviously that David, he kind of like has an affair with the wife of one of his soldiers, Uriah, and he ends up, taking the wife and sending Uriah out into battle to be killed. Essentially, this is a very short version of the story. And then, I can't remember the name of the prophet that comes to him,
Nathan.
but yeah, Prophet Nathan comes to him and like, he tells a story about a man who has 99 sheep or 99 ewes, you know, and he takes the one sheep that his neighbor has, you know, and then David judges that as like awful. He's like, you know, he's shocked by how evil that is, you know, and then, but that's actually the equivalent of what he's done.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was very interesting comparison, you know, and you know, one thing that also came to my mind too regarding this, right, is Saint Mary. You know, Saint Mary or Maryam in the Quran, you know, there are narrations and actually even series that depict Mary as extremely generous and giving and always helping people. And when we go back to the Quran, we actually find that certain miraculous events would take place for her. Yeah. Like, for example, in Surah Al-Imran, verse number 37, it says, "So her Lord accepted her with good acceptance and caused her to grow in a good manner and put her in the care of Zechariah. Every time Zechariah entered upon her in the prayer chamber, he found with her provision. He said, 'O Mary, from where is this coming to you?' And she said, 'It is from Allah. Indeed, Allah provides for whom He wills without account.'" And they always depict this as like miraculously she would have provisions, or she would have fruits or food that would miraculously appear to her. And Abu Sadiq, in the same episode, he said ever since he started practicing this secret that he discovered, anytime he would have a craving, such as a donut or a certain type of food or dessert or something, like miraculously in some way, shape or form, it would just come to him. And someone would say, "Hey, do you want this? Hey, do you want that?" And it would just suddenly appear to him. And I thought that was extremely cool because it just reminded me of that story of Lady Mary.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's this is what the point that Tiffany makes in the episode, you know, it's all down to karma. It's essentially, it all comes back to karma. You know, whatever we do, we're gonna reap what we sow. Basically, True. We're gonna see those actions being repeated back onto us. So yeah, as long as we become aware of that and we become honest with ourselves, you know, that whatever we are experiencing, whatever we are seeing, it is, you know, our own karma. Yeah. This is something which is for sure it's going to help us, you know. And I think if we're all, you know, honest with ourselves, we can see karma playing out in our lives. You know, that's something that I think everyone is able to become conscious of and able to become aware of, that there is this like justice system which is operating behind the scenes. So yeah. And so, yeah, back to the story of David, you know, the point that Abu Sadiq from whom is peace, he makes about this, you know, that basically God, he punishes people based on how they are. Basically, he deals with people how they are, and so he says that this is, you know, perhaps one of the meanings behind the narration of know yourself and know your Lord, and you shall know your Lord, because basically it's from Hadith Qudsi, where God says, "I am how my servant perceives me to be," you know. So yeah, this is extremely important. So if we want to change destiny and the scales and position and the situation that we're in, we have to backtrack and change, you know, what is within our own self before we can change anything that's around us first.
Yeah. So I guess if you're a bad person, just evilness is going to come to you, because that's the way that God will treat you. And it's just as you said, like how Abu Sadiq mentioned, my servant is as he thinks of me. If good, then good. And if bad, then bad. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's, it goes together. The solution is within ourselves, you know, and there's a narration from Imam Ali from whom is peace, where he says, you know, you think that you're a small germ, but yet enfolded within you is the greater cosmos. And so he says, you know, this is also one of the interpretations of this particular narration. So yeah, for sure, this is something which is dependent on ourselves. And, you know, but actually one other point, you know, that Abu Sadiq from whose peace he does make in this episode, you know, is that he mentions, because mercy is obviously one of them, okay, it's about being forgiving to people. If we want God to forgive us, then we should be forgiving to other people, you know. True. And he said that there is actually no such thing as necessarily like bad people, but there are people who have more darkness in them. There are people who have less light in them, and there are people, you know, who have so many veils of darkness over them that they can't see their hand in front of them, you know. So Abu Sadiq, he actually says in this episode, you know, that he forgives everyone who has hurt him, who's done some wrong to
towards him, you know, because he knows and he understands that those people, you know, they thought that they're doing the best thing, or they're with what they have basically to work with their understanding, you know, because of the darkness that they have. So yeah, this is a really important point as well, I think, to make, you know, because there are people who are essentially, you know, just made differently, and this is why, you know, they're operating, you know, within a different framework of existence, basically.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, another teaching I guess we can also contemplate about is something that, you know, judge not lest you be judged, you know. So and I find that interesting because, you know, like, since Abu Sadiq is saying this, since Abu Sadiq is saying, hey, you know, I forgive everybody who has done me wrong, or anybody who is doing such and such things. And, you know, it's amazing the stuff that Abu Sadiq has had to deal with in the past periods for more than 10 years, even more so actually, where people are constantly betraying him and constantly oppressing him and oppressing his people. And, you know, it's magnificent how I can see how forgiving he is. And it really is just like the story of Joseph, really, where Joseph is wronged by his brothers, and it is such an unforgivable thing that they had done to him, where they separated him and tried to even assassinate him and sold him out to the Egyptians. And yet at the end of the day, he forgave his brothers. And, you know, what did we see from that pure heart of Joseph? What did we see from the pure acts of Joseph and his correct mindset and his goodwill towards people? Was that God gave him everything. God gave him the kingdom of Egypt to rule. So if the people want good in their lives, they have to do good. You know, if the people want mercy in their lives, they have to be merciful. Because at the end of the day, all of us, one day we're going to meet our Lord. And depending on how we are with the people is how our Lord is going to be with us. So if there are people out there talking about how if you don't pray 5 times a day, you're going to go to hellfire. If you don't wear hijab, you're going to go to hellfire. If you drink alcohol, you're going to go to hellfire. All these people who are condemning, what's going to happen to them is, unfortunately, just as they have condemned, God will condemn them as well.
And the problem is that, you know, when we do see bad in other people, we're seeing, you know, we're seeing a reflection of our own selves. You know, we're seeing the negativity which is in our own selves, you know. And this is why beside it from Whom's PC said a while back, you know, in the episode which was called A Message to the LGBTQ plus community, you know, he said, you know, if you really think that something is wrong, if you really think that something is bad, just let God be the judge, you know. Don't jump in and be judge and jury and, you know, play that role when no one assigned it to you. There's no reason that you have to, you know, and for sure it's not going to end up well for you. You know, the more forgiving we are, the more open-hearted towards people we can be, then the more of that we'll receive in turn, you know. And one point that Abu Sadiq from Whom's Peace makes also that's very important, you know, is that basically don't brag about it when you do this kind of thing. Don't brag about it when you go and give money to a poor person. You know, if you go and give like £100 to a poor person and you think, wow, that was, you know, more than someone would normally give or something like that, don't go and tell everyone about it. And don't feel like this self-satisfaction with yourself, like, oh, I've done something good, you know, because that makes all the blessings go away. You know, we have to know that everything we do that's good is from God anyway, you know, so it's not from us, you know. And the more that we tell people about it and the more that we boast and show off, you know, this isn't, we have to do things like sincerely for the sake of God, you know, and this is when the blessings happen. And I think that's a very important point. You know, you see so many videos like online now of people going and like helping a homeless person, but they're like doing it for the TikTok views or YouTube views or something, you know. Like they're making a video where they like go and talk to a poor person and then afterwards they like present them with like £500 or like £1,000 or something like that, and it's like, yeah, that's not really the idea, you know. We should like
never really like that. Sorry, continue.
No, you know, we should just aim to give, you know, sincerely for the sake of God, and not having any, like, you know, if we're doing it for the sake of our own ego, you know, for our own ego, like massaging, then it's you know, obviously we're not going to get any blessings for that. Yeah,
and you know what you said, I mean, we see it all the time in social media, people handing out goodies in bags and taking pictures of these poor people and saying, hey, I spent this much money, I did this, that, the other. And sometimes, even weirdly enough, they start taking selfies with people. You know, it's... and some of them, I guess they're doing it sometimes. Some people, they're doing it to showcase, hey guys, look, there's oppression taking place. Please go out and help the homeless people. And other people, they're doing it as bragging rights. Like, look, I'm such a good person. This is how much I gave. Look, I'm doing something for society. And it's interesting, like the reason why it's the only good thing that you will receive, which is that people will, you know, see you as that is because that was your intention. Your intention wasn't to help society. Your intention was to help society so this way people would think good of you. So the reward that you'll have at the end of the day, you gave it to yourself by going out there bragging about what you have done. But a true man of God and a true man appointed by God goes out to the people and accomplishes his deeds, not to brag about it and to show off, but to help society. He doesn't go out there. And actually, that's what we've seen with Abu Sadiq as well, is that Abu Sadiq will do everything in his power. But he would never go out and say, hey guys, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never see him bragging about it. So, that's the one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about Abu Sadiq, is that they see him online and they think, oh, he's just a Mahdi claimant. I mean, he's not a Mahdi claimant who's bragging and wanting followers because he's bored. He is a truthful claimant who has brought forward the will of Prophet Muhammad, and his actions speak louder than any words of any human being out there. And if anybody is in doubt, because now he gave us a practical video, a video in which we can watch, we can hear what he is saying, and we can now see, okay, does it work? Does it work? Okay, we can try it now. Will God be generous with us? Well, according to what you guys believe, God is the most generous, but perhaps maybe you're stuck in poverty. Well, if you want yourself to not be in poverty, if you want that God is generous with you, be generous with other people. Practice this and see if anything changes. Because now the Imam Al-Sadiq gave us a practical knowledge where we can learn if he's truthful or not.
Exactly. This is a practical knowledge. It's a formula. You can go and apply it. You just have to do one simple thing, which is to go out, be generous to someone, be giving to someone with the intention, to do this act sincerely for God, to make yourself closer to God, and don't do it, for any other ego. Don't go and tell people about it afterwards. Just do it privately on your own, and see what happens. This is a really, really important thing, and I hope that people do go and test this out.
I hope so too.
And yeah, for sure. And I think this is the kind of thing that people might say, but I think if anyone is really honest with themselves, they know that this is how it happens. Good or bad, what we do, it comes back to us. It always does. This is it's a natural law. But anyway, yeah. So he speaks more about the idea of mercy, and forgiveness. And yeah, he says basically that Abu Sadiq, from whose peace, when he was looking through the narrations, he found narrations from Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, which are talking about individuals that have had forgiven people for doing really, really bad things to them, and then they die and they stand in front of God on the Day of Judgment, and God speaks to them and he asks them, and he holds them account for their sins that they've committed, and then he basically forgives them and he wipes their slate clean, due to the fact that these individuals had wiped away the debt of other people. So this is something which is incredible, for anyone who is obviously worried about the sins they've committed or the wrongs that they've done, and they worry about the Day of Judgment. They worry about ending up in a bad hereafter. This is another really incredibly important key, that if we forgive other people, God will forgive us, because God, he doesn't want, he's not going to allow us to be more forgiving than him. And yeah, he also gives another story, which is a parable from Jesus, which has a similar meaning behind it, basically. So it's about like a rich man who is loaning money to other individuals, and then like another rich man who's loaning money to him. And so the first rich man, like, he's loaning money to individuals, but when they can't pay him back, or when they don't have the ability, like, he wouldn't forgive their debt. Basically, he would repossess their houses and leave them in maybe like enslaved them, and so before this, like, the other man who's lending him money would actually forgive his debt when he wasn't allowed to pay it back. But when he sees the way that the first man is behaving towards the people who owe him money, then he stops being so forgiving towards him, basically. He stops forgiving his debt when he can't pay it back. So yeah, this is this is a very clear kind of allegory, basically, for God. The way that we treat other people is the way that God is going to treat us. If someone owed us money, or if someone owed us anything, or if you use money as a symbol for anything, if someone needs help and we don't give them the help, we're not forgiving towards them in that way, then God won't be like that, for us, because we all have sins, essentially. Even Jesus said it, you know, why do you call me good? No one is good except God. So none of us are perfect. We all have sins, you know, so this is why it's extra important that we're forgiving towards other people. We don't make judgments towards other people, you know, we don't condemn them. We forgive them, we enable them, we try and make life easier for them, we try and look after them. And this is the way that God will look after us.
Yeah, exactly. So if we want God to look after us, we have to look out for his creation. And God is the one who, unlike the thought of many Muslims, they assume that God is just some sort of like a very, very, very judgmental, condemning entity, when in reality he's not. And actually, I want to read a little bit of a passage here from the episode, which actually Abu Salih basically disproves the idea that people have of God. He said that there's narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that actually goes into how on the day of judgment, that God will roll out his mercy to all of creation. And it would be so great that even the devil himself, that even Iblis himself would think that the mercy of God would also engulf him. So imagine the devil and all of the crimes and all of the sins and all of the atrocities that he had committed against the people, and basically had destroyed people and, you know, encouraged people to murder and all these things, all that which he's responsible for. He even believes that God at one point, or God is going to forgive him. So I think that is incredible. So if God himself can possibly and is going to forgive the devil, then why can't we as human beings who say that we're followers of God, hey, we follow Jesus, hey, you know, Jesus is Lord. Okay, well then take this knowledge and now apply it. If you believe God is merciful and you say you love God, okay, well then most people, when they love somebody, they act like them. You know, whether it's a wife or a husband or a best friend or a sibling, you tend to mimic and have the characteristics of those who you love. So if a person truly loves God, they will be merciful, they will be loving, their mercy will precede their wrath. They will even go out to even have knowledge, because God is the most knowledgeable. So people want to be like God and also have knowledge, not so this way they can brag about it, but this way they can help other people. So I think now we need to and the people, they need to put their money where their mouth is. If you say that you're a follower of God, then act like God.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and this is an incredible point as well, you know, that we have the ability, you know, through our forgiveness to, you know, escape from a bad end at Judgment Day, you know. And if the majority of mankind, you know, imagine if everyone, like, you know, they took part in this, you know, they became this like extremely forgiving towards everyone. Imagine how that would not only change the world, but imagine how that would, imagine how that would cause people to end in Judgment Day. You know, we could, like, we have the ability, you know, we have the potential that we could just prevent anyone from going into hellfire, you know, through this particular teaching. But anyway, let's come back to this, because I think we have a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, we're doing great.
Good, thank you.
So what brings you up here?
I like to pass messages on, really.
Okay, look, brother, so we are here on our show talking about basically this idea of the law of attraction, but is there anything that you would like to ask regarding it?
Yeah, just wanted to, within law of attraction and everything like that, and you're talking about everyone coming to Christ and all this type of thing, I kind of see what you're saying as a religion or a cult or whichever way. It's still a business, right?
No, brother, we are not a business. We are basically calling people to God. We are not here to start a business using religion.
We're not calling people to Christ. I think that's what you said. Sorry, we're calling
that's also
people.
something that we did not say. We didn't say, hey, we're Christians calling you to Jesus as our Lord and Savior and you have to worship him. We're not saying that.
No, okay. But in the aspects of what it is, that you guys are doing business. But
look, brother, if you mention business one more time, I think this is a discussion you can maybe take with our outreach team, but yeah, we're not a business.
So, have you seen about Yellowstone?
Look, I mean, we're not here talking about Yellowstone, but I have heard news about Yellowstone. But yeah, we are not here to talk about Yellowstone as of right now, unless something else comes out from there, I guess.
If you guys have a global presence right now through a lot of countries, and that's what a lot of countries don't have. right? A global presence of utility of everyone working together, right? If that blows, it will be a global migration. Okay?
Okay.
Look, I'm not really sure I understand the points that you're making. You know, do you have any questions for us about the topic that we're speaking about today?
I just needed you to understand the message and get it through your religion, for example.
Okay. I mean, the message, I guess, was not really coherent, but look, I mean,
you can contact us on the outreach email, you know, and someone from the outreach team will get back to you and have a conversation with you over the phone. You know, this is a live show, so we need to discuss the topic at hand. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Take care.
So, yeah, and also that's for everybody else out there. If there is anything that you would like to discuss with us or anything that you have as a message for us, please reach out to us at theahmadireligion.org. If you want to perhaps be more in touch with us, get in contact with us, or even ask us questions, or even ask the Imam of the time certain questions, which clearly in the YouTube channel that we have, he has been answering the questions of many, many people. And we can obviously help you in whatever way, shape, and form that we can. Anyway, I guess we get back to business, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, not the kind of business that the caller was calling in about, but, you know, regarding the episode, basically.
Yeah. So basically, the point that Abu Sadiq from Whom Peace is saying, you know, the power of complete forgiveness towards another person, you know, is that, you know, if you have an ability and you have a greater heart that you forgave everyone, you know, then God is obviously, he's going to forgive you in that way. If you forgive everyone, everything that they've done to you, you know, even if they've done something really bad to you, then God he will end up forgiving you, you know, because otherwise that would mean that you're, you know, more forgiving than God, and that's not possible, you know. So God is the ultimate definition of mercy. So yeah, this is the secret basically to obtaining God's mercy, and I think this is something that, you know, everyone would agree this is something that they wish for. Yeah, and also I was like mentioned something really cool, and I just want to bring up the verse because I think if I were to just say it, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't believe me. Because unfortunately a lot of people actually don't really read the Quran, although they say, hey, I'm Muslim, I read the Quran. But in reality, unfortunately, I think a lot of people, they read the Quran in order to memorize it and maybe to receive good deeds because, like, oh, they read a narration that says read the Quran on this day and then everything's going to be good for you. But anyway, what does the Quran say? So we actually find in Surah Sad, which is Surah number 38, verse 78, God says to Iblis, and surely my curse is on you until the day of judgment, right? So that's pretty interesting. So my curse, right, is on you until the day of judgment or until the day of recompense, right? Recompense, sorry. So that just goes to show you that actually Iblis is cursed from the day that he refused to prostrate to Adam until the day of judgment. So then what happens after the day of judgment? Well, he's no longer under a curse. Exactly. So I found that fascinating because for some reason, you know, back as like when I was Sunni, for some reason, the way that I understood this was Iblis is always cursed. And that after the day of judgment, he's going to be cursed. But when Abu Saik pointed this out, it just goes to show that the idea of the scholars and their interpretation of what's going to happen with Iblis in the end times and or after the day of judgment is completely the opposite of what the Quran is actually stating. Yeah, and so, you know, Abu Sadiq from whom his peace, he reveals in the Goal of the Wise, you know, that he had this dream about Ahmad al-Hassan from whom his peace, the first Mahdi, where it was revealed, you know, this is in the last chapter of the Goal of the Wise, where Ahmad al-Hassan, you know, he reveals to him that actually, you know, Iblis is forgiven by God. You know, he does enter back into the mercy of God, and yeah, he so this is something that is revealed in the Goal of the Wise to be true. This is something which is going to happen, you know. So this is why, you know, with this we have this key, you know, if Iblis is going to be forgiven, then, you know, for sure there's no one out there who should feel hopeless, because, you know, for sure the world that we live in sometimes makes us feel that way, you know. It makes us feel like, look, we've done so many terrible things, we must be bad, you know, how could God love us, how could God accept us, how could God forgive us, you know, because people do have this picture in their head of this extremely vengeful, angry, punishing God, you But the reality is that it's very simple. No one's perfect. All we have to do is accept that we're not perfect and accept other people's imperfections, accept other people's sins, and God will accept ours. Just treat our fellow human being with love and mercy and forgiveness, and those things will flow towards us. It's something that is incredibly beautiful, actually. And Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, he says, he went forward and he decided he would never ever go to sleep at night while he had anything in his heart towards another human being, and he would forgive any human being that wronged him for anything. He would, and this is why we believe, that we're supposed to make 70 excuses for people when they make a mistake, before we judge them, and sometimes we even say 70,000 excuses for someone, before you become angry with them or before you become upset with them. This is when he says, that there's no such thing as like a bad guy, there's just people who have different percentages of light and darkness in them. So this is, we can see that other people have different perceptions of the world, this is why they see things that way, and this is why they do things which appear to be bad actions, but this is what they're operating within, this is their perception that they're operating from within. So just like Jesus, or the one who was crucified, he says on the cross, he says, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they've done." All of us, we must do the exact same thing, and we must forgive mankind, not just the believers, because the people who are doing bad things, the things that appear bad to us, they're not really aware that they're doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope that people take this message very, very well. And I think if the people actually take what Abu Sadiq said and they go back to the teachings of the prophets and the messengers, they'll see this to be true. I mean, Jesus even indicated that he who lives by the sword is going to die by the sword. So whatever you do to others, God is going to do to you. There will be a way that God performs this act. So, this is actually the cure, to all of the suffering in the world. We've talked about many, many things on the show. We've talked about how to be truly happy. And Abu Sadiq said, well, the way to be happy is to make other people happy. And this links with the true secret, the real secret. So if a person wants mercy, well, he has to give mercy in order to receive it. If a person wants to be loved, whether it's by a spouse or by friends or by the people, well, he has to showcase love to the people. He cannot hate people and then say, oh, why doesn't anybody love me? Well, it's because you hate everybody, and you demonstrate hate, and you just show hate. So of course hate is going to come back to you. Yeah. And that's the one thing that I think people need to understand, is that if they want success in life and all of these fields, then they have to be that. Be and you shall be. And that's something cool that I think that we find from the sayings of God, is that if he wants something, he just says to a thing, be, and it is. Yeah. So if we want something, we just have to be it, and then we'll receive it. Be love, be mercy, be all of these good, amazing attributes of God, and you will just receive. Yeah, and do what Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, he told us, he did in this episode, go and follow his example that he's lived by, ask God to put someone in your path who needs help and fulfill their needs, go out and do that and see what happens to you, go and take someone who's done you wrong in life and just try and forgive them from the bottom of your heart, and let's see how much we could change the world if we all do that, It's not just about changing our hereafter and changing our, level of forgiveness that we receive on Judgment Day. It's about a different world in this life. Can you imagine what the world is actually going to be like if everyone lives by the advice which is given in this episode, to ultimately aim to fulfill the needs of others? Anyone who comes across our path who has need to fulfill that need, if we're able to, to forgive other people, to be generous to them, to be loving towards them, to be merciful towards them, this is the ultimate key to a paradise on earth. This is really the way that we build a better world. And like Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, he says, when he's talking about the book at the beginning, since the release of the book, the world has only got worse. But let's see how the world gets, when the teachings of Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, the Qaim of the family of Muhammad, peace be upon them, let's see how the world changes under his teachings, when people actually truly enact and truly live by the words that he's saying. We really are going to be living in a completely different reality than the one that we're living in now, a completely different dimension. We really truly will have all of those things that we wish for, and we really
truly will have peace. So yeah, this is something which is amazing. You know, for sure, this is like an incredible episode. It was amazing to watch, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope that everyone who's watching, you know, they go over to the Mahdi Has Appeared on YouTube and watch this episode, the real secret.
And it's worth watching it multiple times because of just how jam-packed the knowledge here is. And you know, if we do all of this unconditionally, no matter what anyone has done to us, you will see your life improve for the better. Well, anyway, I guess that's all the time that we have. But thank you all for watching, and I hope that you all take this message seriously and spread the real secret. This is something a believer can do, and this is something people who are not believers can do, and their lives will change for the better. Anyway, God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.